Welcome to VCs Off the Record. This is Real Talk with Real Investors. Your host, Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital and co-founder of the Wocstar Fund, has spent 30 years in finance. And I'm here too. I'm Victoria Bird. I'm the Chief Content Officer and Creative Director of Wocstar Media. And I've spent 30 years in media. We champion female entrepreneurs, we champion diverse teams, and we're both passionate about stories that change old narratives. We're looking to inform you, inspire you, and help you get your bag and your dreams.
Hey Wockstars, welcome back to another episode of VCs Off the Record. I'm your host, Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital and co-founder and general partner at the Wocstar Fund. And joining me for another episode is my bestie, Victoria Burt. She's the Chief Content Officer and the Creative Director for Wocstar Media and Wocstar Capital. Hey Victoria.
Hey Gayle.
How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really excited. We have a set that we changed up our set, so we're feeling very demure, very mindful.
Is it demure? I was going with fabulous.
I don't know. I was
and I love like flowers. I like that it's
pretty.
Light.
We tape at Podstream Studios, and they did a really great job.
They did a fabulous job.
They did.
Like I would want this in my house.
I would kill the plants.
My mother's killing my plants right now.
Yeah.
She's babysitting. So I don't have kids, but what I have are, I call green babies. You know how people have fur babies and real babies?
I have a fur baby, yeah.
Yeah, I have green babies. Well, I've been traveling so much that I left them with my mother to take care of, and she told me that 2 of them have died. I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh dear.
And one of them is in a little...
What kind of plants? Are they difficult?
Succulents. I know.
She killed a succulent.
I know. You
don't basically have to do anything to a succulent.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how to feel about this. And one of them was in a little planter that said Wocstar Capital.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, dear.
Remember how we did that for the retreat last year? I gave the whole team.
I killed it. It died probably by February.
I don't know how to feel about this.
Well, I am not a plant. You know what's so interesting about how we've just started to talk? We just told very interesting stories about ourselves, right? I don't have kids either. And you were like, I don't have kids. I have plant babies. And I was like,
green babies. Green babies.
Beg your pardon. They're called green babies.
Listen, you guys get to say fur babies. I have green babies. It's a thing. I made it up.
It's a thing.
It's a thing now.
Yeah.
Because I say it is.
It's a thing now.
But storytelling, I love that you found that in what we just talked about, because that is actually what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, oh, look at that. We have stories. We have ways of explaining so that people can understand us see us in a context that is truthful or not apparent, right?
Yeah. Listen, we can talk about the deals, the structure of the deals, the terms, the economics, the returns of venture. We can talk about all the cool technology out there. I obviously geek out on all of that. We can talk with VCs, and we'll do more of that. But I wanted to take a beat and bring us back to this concept of storytelling, because at the end of the day, everything that we're doing, I believe, requires human connection. And in many ways, we've lost that in parts of our society. And so I want us to come back to this notion of storytelling as a way to connect as human beings. You know, so much of what we've been doing over the last couple of years is shouting to the masses, right? It's like, you have 1 million subscribers, you have 1 million followers, right? I believe that with all the technology that we're investing in and that I see out there, much of it is to bring us back to each other. It's connecting us. You can make a case, even AI is going to help us be better with each other, whether it's your financial advisor, whether it's your medical
Why do you say that?
Because we are getting to a place where we can truly see each other and understand each other and be able to like tell a story and hear a story and listen to someone else's story. And we're getting better at how we articulate our stories. And technology is helping us do that. The times that we're in are helping us do that. And so today, we have a gentleman, Romeo Ortiz. I knew through the cinema school, which you'll hear about, Ghetto Film School he was a part of. And now he helps work with us at Wocstar Academy, teaching entrepreneurs about storytelling so that as they're out there either raising capital, whether they're trying to land a big client or reach more customers, how they tell their story and how they connect with humans is really important. So I've asked them to come in and talk to us and our listeners, and then we're going to talk to a fabulous VC. I love VCs and I love investors. So I have another really cool investor that I want our listeners to know about. So as you're raising capital, Shay's someone you should connect with because she's a fabulous and really heartfelt investor.
Amazing.
I think she comes from a good
I can't
place.
wait to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear about the storytelling. I can't wait to see and hear the insights that Shay has to give as well.
So the other thing about storytelling, I'm so passionate about it, and it's why we started Wocstar Media.
Of course.
We should tell people about the Lunch and Learns because I think they would really appreciate if you love this segment, this episode, and you really want to delve more into storytelling, we should let them know about the Lunch and Learns.
Yeah, we try
So come back.
Yeah.
We will come back to you with more on.
Yeah, we try to do them once a month. We try to get really very specific guests that can help people in the arts or not in the arts who want to learn more about what we do and how to do maybe something that they're looking into doing themselves.
I like it because it's a behind the scenes
conversation.
Yeah, but it's a behind the scenes in this like Hollywood, Broadway theater world that I just don't know anything about in this way. And so I think that's why people have been attracted to it. Because how do films get made? Like, how does something go from paper to Broadway?
Yeah, like this, we did one, but when this, by the time this is out, it will be up on our site with literary agents and publishers and agents, IP agents, talking about that process of taking something from publishing to production and all the ins and outs and little nuances that I had a friend who is who's a writer who came to that Lunch and Learn, and after me, she's like, I didn't know half of that stuff.
Wow.
And I was like, that's good.
Wow. Okay, now you used an acronym. We know how I feel about acronyms.
How you feel? You're always dropping acronyms.
Am I? Well, stop me when I do.
I do. That's why I have the note paper.
All right, so you said one, IP.
Oh, intellectual property.
Thank you.
Yeah, intellectual property.
All righty, let's get started. It's a story. The world's a story. All righty, Wockstars, let's get started. We got a lot to talk about and some cool guests to do it with.
This episode of VCs Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy.
So we're going to talk about storytelling today, which is also very important in investing and in venture capital and in growing your company. And the way we're going to talk about it is I've invited Romeo Ortiz here to talk with us about storytelling. Romeo, you have had an amazing career, and I've loved the trajectory of it. I got to know you from the Cinema High School. I want you to talk about that. I've gotten to know you because of Ghetto Film School, but you are the founder of Mad Gothic Productions. And you're the video manager, the filmmaker, the guy with Product Story Media. We're going to talk about all of that. But first, tell me how you got into filmmaking. Where did that love of film and storytelling come from?
I like telling this one a lot.
So
about when I was, I want to say 11 or 12, I was going into Toys R Us, if we remember what that was.
I do. I love Toys R Us.
And I was with my mom. We saw some action figurines that were Godzilla. And I picked one up, seen the box, seen a bunch of figurines on it, and thought it was very interesting. Went home, looked it up on YouTube. Then I saw the Japanese versions that were being made overseas with the suits and the strings and all that type of stuff. So from there, I decided to make some of my own with the figures that I had, because I saw other YouTubers at the time, which is back in 2009 or something like that.
Okay.
Making the figures with their phones, and I started to do that, and ever since then, it just grew from there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where I started from, yeah.
Wow. All right, so Godzilla, YouTube, Toys R Us. I like that. I like that trifecta there. What then got you to the Cinema School. And will you tell people what the cinema school is? Because it's fabulous. And I want you guys all to hear about it.
Cinema school. Cinema school was the first film-based high school at the time when I was going into high school back in 2012, 11, or further than that. I think like when I came in, we filled up the school. So when I was a freshman, that's when we had everybody entirely. But it was a film-based high school that had filmmaking curriculum for, I think MWI it was called. They'll do it 2 weeks at a time during a semester. We'll learn filmmaking and apply that to like other classes that we had there. Yeah.
And how did you find out about it to know to go?
It was random, to be honest. I looked at the school book, wanted to see, and then it was the first thing there when I was flipping, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I don't need to look anymore.
Oh, I love that.
It makes sense.
I love that. So a little side note, the founder of Ghetto Film School, Joe Hall, yes. I had been supporting Ghetto Film School. And he came to me a couple years into me supporting them. I had joined the advisory board and been involved in different stuff with this idea for what is now the cinema school.
Oh.
And I said, that sounds really cool. I like this. Like, I love this idea of building a pipeline, a new generation of storytellers. And so I said, how about I host a breakfast and bring some potential donors and other supporters and investors, and let's see if we can't raise some funds so that you can do a strategic plan and build it out and figure out how to get this off the ground. And so we did that.
That's interesting.
And you're one of the graduates of that school. I love that. That's
interesting.
That's a nice full circle. Okay, so Godzilla, Toys R Us, YouTube, cinema school, then what?
My senior year, I joined the Ghetto Film School. I think it was about 8 months we were in there. We did the thesis film. I was actually the writer.
Where'd you guys do your thesis?
I believe it was London.
Ah, okay, you were on the London
story.
one. Okay, yeah.
Modern origin, Jack the Ripper story. Then that happened, and then when I graduated, I went into college and then worked a bunch of production, HBO, a couple of other content houses, like something called Overtime Sports. It was a content house for, and other things like that, and then producing my own work at the same time, building MGP at the time when it was MGP. I got the productions, now Product Story Media now.
Product Story Media, love it. Were there any role models for you?
Any role models?
Yeah, anyone you're like, I want to be Spielberg, I want to be Tyler?
Not directors. I have other inspirations that are from TV shows and etc. So I'll share one that's it's pretty funny.
More, please.
We know The Office.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
We know Robert California from The Office. Big inspiration.
Okay.
To be that person.
Oh, I
so
love
I have
that.
things like that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Tell me what makes for a powerful story in your mind. Like, are there certain elements?
A couple of elements, but I would say if I had to go for one, it's relatability. What story we're telling to what particular person. But as a whole, it's relatability, the human aspect, empathy, good hook.
Yeah. I love that you said that. And audience, I did not tee him up to say that, I swear to you. But I love that you said that, because why I wanted you on the show today is that I wanted our audience to have a better appreciation for storytelling, because so much of what happens in finance, we think numbers, we think, economics, returns, IRRs, ARRs, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, it's about how well we tell a story and who we're telling it to, and are we making human connections? And when that happens, then transactions can happen. That's when a deal happens. That's when an investor will say, I'm willing to invest in you. And so for those of you listening, if you're a founder, be sure to find Romeo outside of this episode. Find any filmmaker, storytellers, but really think about the story. It's not simply a pitch that you're doing, it's a story that you're telling. So I like that. Relatability, empathy. I would almost say And partly why we started Wocstar Media was because even when I was raising capital, I would go in and meet with potential investors, and I would tell, I had my deck, and hey, here's, Wocstar Fund, here's why I'm building it, here's the kind of deals we want to do, here's the founders and the technology that we're excited about, here's our investment thesis. But we weren't connecting. And I thought, I did everything right. I had the deck written the way it was supposed to be, it flowed the way it was supposed to, but I wasn't connecting.
Yeah. And
so when I started to stop trying to get through all the pages and just connect with them to find out, like, why did they even take the meeting? I remember starting meetings and be like, so why are we meeting? Why did you agree to meet with me?
Yeah.
And then I'd say, well, here's why I wanted to meet with you, and not to do anything with the fund yet, but why I wanted to meet you to talk about the fund versus someone else. It started this like connection, this human connection. So I love that you said that. Empathy, relatability.
Something we all need.
Yeah. What do you think of the idea of storytelling as like a way to address social issues? Like, are we putting too much on stories and films and TV projects, or does it have a real place in how we see the world?
I believe it has a real place. I believe I believe it is the one way to do so without so much friction, just because we're in a world that we're building. Yeah. It's full of opinions and how you grew up and etc. So I believe that it's probably the best place to start with talking about those issues, or wherever the world is at, wherever somebody needs to hear, be aware of certain things. Yeah, bring awareness.
So you work with a lot of clients in various genres, brands, different industries, different businesses.
Yeah.
What are 2-3 takeaways that are pieces of advice that you give to people that our founders that are listening and entrepreneurs that are listening can use in their daily work?
Just as a overall?
If you want to go there, or just in storytelling.
We could do storytelling.
Look at Romeo. He's like, I got some just general advice. Can I start there? You could do that too. General advice and storytelling.
Okay, so general, what I would say.
Because you're an entrepreneur too. I mean,
yeah.
I label you a filmmaker, but in being a filmmaker, it's very entrepreneurial. So.
Yeah, it is. I never thought about it like that, actually. So that is true. I would say focus is key. Right? General.
2 snaps.
Consistency is key as well. And a lot of research for anything.
Oh my God, it's like you're in my head. It's literally like you're in my head. Yes, focus, consistency, and research.
And then for story, I would say, you could apply those same things.
You can.
You really can. I would say to talk, if you're going to tell a story, you should talk to people who could relate to that already. So you can get the best information when you're displaying it. So it's not fake or inauthentic. Use your audience. Use the people who can talk better about it than you can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it kind of, in some ways, it sounds like you're saying, like, be authentic in the stories that you tell, and so therefore go places where you know and with people that know and have a true experience of what you're trying to convey and communicate.
I can give an example too with that. So when I was in writing the thesis film for GFS, I wasn't as knowledgeable as I was now. Back then, I was very
listen, we were all young and dumb.
Very stubborn. I say this a lot. So when I was writing a story about Jack the Ripper, psychological thriller, medicine, I was 17 at the time. I didn't really know about that stuff. I just knew what from movies already and like the fun stuff and etc.
Yeah.
So when I was writing, I had a hard time because I didn't know how to write that story. I've never been a doctor before. I've never been to London before to even know the culture and just things in that realm. So because I didn't know what I was writing about, it came off inauthentic until we got feedback. I stopped being stubborn, wrote from a place that I knew, and then, we made it and it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the lesson there was that you were open to feedback.
Not before, but after I had to learn a lesson. Yeah.
Midway,
they're like, look, we can't. Okay, that's fine.
You're like, no, this is my story.
Yeah.
This is what I wrote.
Yeah.
But I find that interesting in the creative process. And it's maybe why I'm not so much of a creative, because you have to be good at taking feedback.
Yeah, it's probably like the
right. Like
I would
I
say
can do numbers
Mm-hmm.
and like there's a right and a wrong answer. Like 1 + 1, there is a number that it equals.
yeah.
2. But with creative, there's so many different interpretations of it. And so how people interpret it, how people receive it, is up for a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
And so you have to be willing to have that feedback. Tell us what Mad Gothic is about, Mad Gothic Productions.
So Mad Gothic Productions, it started out as that. That's when I actually started the YouTube channel with the Godzilla stuff. The name was kind of random. Again, I was like
So wait,
12.
that name is from like when you were...
From when I started, yeah. Then I legalized it when we went into horror stuff because my company was helping indie filmmakers to produce their films, and there just wasn't a market for that. It just didn't make any sense. So we kept it and strung it along up until it was like, hey, this is not making any sense. We can't shoot products and then be Mad Gothic Productions. It doesn't correlate.
Brand, off-brand.
It's off-brand. People are not going to probably trust us. It's going to be hard to sell to people. So we just changed the name about 2 years ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. Yeah. But that's where it started, though. It was like horror, art house films, A24 stuff, yeah.
Now, do you carve out time to still do that?
Funny enough, I've been focused on the business and growing that, but next year I would like to do something and try to use it for marketing purposes, story, whatever's a product video, a film, same elements across the board, good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Wocstar Media as a company we launched earlier this year with Victoria Burt leading the charge there. And so we get, we're in a lot of conversations about different projects, and we're looking across the landscape. And it's amazing to me, horror is a real moneymaker.
Yeah.
It is a real money maker.
People love it. It's just I believe it's the cheapest film to do, like type of film, and the biggest return on investment.
Oh my God, the economics on it are fabulous.
Yeah.
And not to say that it's not good quality, but like it does, yeah.
You could do the bare minimum.
You really can.
Yeah.
You really can make money. I'm glad you said it
Yeah.
instead of me. But yeah, I was blown away by that. So who knows? You might see some Wocstar Media horror stories.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Listen, I love money.
Yeah.
I love money. I love to win. I like,
I do too.
building generational wealth. Like, we shouldn't shy away from those things. So what kind of things are you doing with Product Story Media?
So now trying to just pioneer the concept that we have. We have a framework that is tailored to small business owners and trying to tell their story with video marketing. So we got the idea from messing up our own project before. We had a project that was like $40,000. And I believe I said this when I was in the cohort when we got that job. Mm-hmm. That job was a lot of mistakes happened in that job. And
I love that you are just so honest. Like, you're like, I effed up. We effed up.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you learn. That's how
I
you
say
learn.
that to my team all the time. I don't know if we can curse it, but I'm always like, fess up to your F ups.
Yeah.
It's actually quite freeing.
Yeah.
And you learn so much more when you fess up to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, then I don't work, because I'm like, you learned something. Like, I know you're not going to do that again because you've learned, you've got some wisdom, you got some insight.
It's also feedback, technically. This is going back to feedback. It's like your own feedback from the universe, so you should take it, listen to it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So
feedback
that's what we
from the
did.
universe.
Yeah. That's
so
what we did.
$40,000 F up.
We did that.
Can you tell us what the F up was? We're like, what was it? What
We
did you
do? When you're watching like ads, promos and stuff, usually it's a lot of fun stuff, creative stuff that doesn't make any sense when you're watching. And it's like, what was that product? What were we supposed to do?
I feel like every ad is like that today.
It's kind of like that, yeah. It's kind
Unless it's like McDonald's.
Yeah.
Or Dunkin'. I have no idea what half these ads
like
are trying to sell me.
Manscaped, they do good commercials, I believe. But it's usually like that. And we kind of fell into that when we did the projects because we got too hot for our heads, or I did. Because we're like, I didn't have to listen.
I'm a creative.
Mm-hmm, I'm a creative. And then we did that. The company was not happy. It's hard to explain that one, But from there, I was like, I'm not going to let this happen ever again. We did a lot of research and studying on storytelling, best elements, what to do in business, etc. Put that all together. Now we shoot it within 6 scenes. Saves money, confusion with a team, and you could do it anywhere without a bunch of sitting there for weeks trying to plan things out. If you just know the elements, to be honest, you could do it in a room. As long as you have the 6 elements, you're fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then we use that framework with the same client again, who paid us a lot of money again. And they were like, if you mess this up, then okay. We did it, and then we succeeded.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Who's the ideal client?
Ideal client for us.
Like, could it be a small business? Is it a tech business? Is it a hardware? Is it like a physical product?
Physical product for a small business owner who has a product that they want to get into the consumer's hands. It could be, what we did was kitchen appliances, how to make that your life better when doing that. We've done makeup brands. We're trying to still narrow it down, but it just seems like if you want a good story to bring in good quality leads, turn them into lifetime clients, then that's what we're focusing on. Whoever would need that.
Very cool. How do people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more?
You can find me at Product Story Media. We have a lot of our tips on there. LinkedIn, YouTube, IG. Yeah.
Okay.
Post a lot of valuable content.
Wow. So there's a lot of informative information for free at productstorymedia.com.
Yes, including workbooks and stuff so you could dive into it before investing into a project and stuff. Yeah.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Any last or final thoughts that we should be thinking about when we leave here around storytelling?
You can find a story if you look hard enough anywhere to tell.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So if you're doing a presentation and you're trying to pitch something, use a story from your actual life. If you really look, you can find something to bring it back.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's going to stay with me.
And those are the realest ones, yeah.
Thank you. I knew it was going to be a good time having you on the show.
Thank you, Gayle.
Thank you, Romeo.
This episode of VCs Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy.
Hey, Wockstars, welcome back. We are here with Achebe with Achebe Capital. She is revolutionizing venture because of her investment thesis and just the human nature that you bring to how you're thinking about investing. It's really been beautiful to see.
Thank you.
So I'm so glad she's here joining us. Welcome. I know you're busy. I know this time of year gets crazy, but thank you for making the time. How are you?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And never too busy for an amazing conversation with amazing people. So
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Tell our listeners a little bit about you. How did you come to be in this space and place?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's been non-linear, but when I look back, all the dots connect. And there's definitely a through line and like a North Star that I've been working towards. Originally I was born in Nigeria. My family moved to the U.S. when I was very young. I grew up in North Jersey. So I'm first generation Nigerian American. And I studied at Penn, undergrad, started my career. I was initially pre-law, but then, because I wanted to change the world in some way, and I thought the best way to do that is through law and like government and maybe be the president one day. And then the more I learned about...
Listen, that's that Nigerian upbringing. Conquer
Exactly.
the world, dominate.
100%. In fact, I was supposed to be a doctor. And if you ask my mom, there's still time. She's like, you can still get your doctorate.
I love it.
Yeah, so I thought I'd go that route. And the more I learned about institutions and what it really entailed, I realized actually in some ways, some institutions, not all, are part of the problem, right? I didn't want to like spend my time and energy trying to fight to maintain broken systems or try to fix them, but rather another route would be to create new systems, right? And inspire people to follow suit. And so that's what got me really interested and curious about technology and like entrepreneurship.
Interesting.
And so I was very fortunate to intern at Google and start my career at Google. And so sort of went down that path.
And what time would that have been at Google?
So I interned 2007, 2008, and 2009. And then I started my career at Google. So
that's a
early
really
days.
interesting time because it's still kind of
Absolutely.
early days in Google. And
Yeah.
people's usage of it. Like
Yeah.
even Google Suite wasn't really a thing.
At all. In fact, it was like early days of YouTube.
Ah.
So one of my summer projects was actually to look at user-generated content to see if we can pull in information to help for the help center. And I realized there's something here. I was amazed and inspired by people that like spent all their time like really dedicated to creating content that actually provided better troubleshooting tips than actual Google's online help center. And so I realized like I just saw the kind of the early days of user-generated content and consumers really being, the power of giving people a voice and a space to create content and just like share it with the world and they weren't getting paid at that point. It was just all pure heart. Yeah, so.
That's amazing. And then you went from technology and then what made you think about the investment side? What was that aha that said, I want to be on that side of the equation?
Yeah, so I went from working in tech to basically, I knew that like one of my kind of guiding principles is to let your curiosity be your guide, right? And so at that time, I was curious about working on the continent. I'd moved to the US when I was young. I didn't grow up on the continent. I'd visited once and really saw just like how much talent there was, but there wasn't a lot of access to the same opportunities that I had in the US. And so I knew at some point I wanted to be part of the development story of the continent. And I saw a lot of parallels in terms of like my upbringing in New Jersey and also the Black experience in the US as well. And I remember thinking, wow, like there's so many parallels if there's, and so
and how powerful that would be if you could connect those dots.
And be a bridge. And
Powerful.
so I got an amazing opportunity to move to South Africa to work with Fred Swaniker and Chris Bradford at ALA, African Leadership Academy, and also with MasterCard Foundation. I helped them build the Nzisha Prize, which became one of the largest accelerator programs for African entrepreneurs. And it was like through that experience of like working with entrepreneurs, I traveled across the continent and worked with entrepreneurs, NGOs, universities, tech hubs, and really tried, my goal was really to, create community. Because I realized pretty early on, like, I'm not an expert in this space, right? I wanted to make sure that I'm empowering the organizations across the continent that were the real experts. Like, they have been doing this work long before I showed up, right? And so, but they didn't have access to the same resources we had through MasterCard. And so I used what would have been our marketing budget to basically be a rainmaker and spread it across a lot of the organizations that I worked with and just basically ask them like, hey, if you can just evangelize us and just help us spread the word, that's all we ask for. And it was amazing. And so we scaled pretty quickly across the continent. And so then after Nzisha Prize and being inspired by the entrepreneurs that I worked with, I decided to experiment with becoming an entrepreneur myself. I was curious about building my own company. And so I started a healthcare startup in South Africa, in Joburg. And I went through the process of raising capital for the business. And I was invited by a Silicon Valley-based VC to fly out to Silicon Valley to be part of a program and meet with investors there. And that was my first exposure to VC as an industry. And so I met with VCs across Sand Hill Road. And I realized, wow, like they have the best job in the world. And I realized like literally in that moment, this is my calling. And that was like my first exposure to VC as an industry. And I was like, wow, like this is the best job in the world. I didn't know you can get paid for doing all the things that I was doing for free, right? I loved working with founders. I love being able to facilitate introductions between someone that's building something and someone that like has something related. And I used to always host parties in Joburg to kind of like, I love convening people and getting people in a room.
That's all of the portfolio community building that we have to do as venture capitalists. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I realized like, why am I on this end of the table, like begging for capital when I could be on the other end allocating it to the amazingly talented entrepreneurs that I'd met throughout my journey across the U.S., across Africa. And so that's what inspired me to pivot and figure out like how to break into VC and how this world works.
Thank you. We need more people like you that come with a real appreciation and understanding of the entrepreneurial journey and challenges that founders have, and also wants to be like an evangelizer and and uplift entrepreneurs.
100%.
And so to bring all of that to the investing side of it, thank you. We need more of that in the world. And we need people that look like you and have experiences like you and have a worldview like you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a privilege, honestly. I think, and that's also one of the motivating factors was I wanted to be the VC that I needed in the process.
Oh, I love that, the VC that I needed. You're out in the world. I see you out and about, and you know so many people. And you're talking to investors and entrepreneurs. How do you explain to them the importance of diversity and inclusion in VC?
Well, I guess...
And
I don't. Yeah.
That's essentially
exactly same. You read my mind. I actually don't explain. So I think right now my focus is really, I believe in alignment. Find your audience. I think all things in life, including raising capital or being a VC or building a company, it's about finding your audience. You got to find your people. And if you find yourself constantly in explaining mode, that's probably not the right room or the right audience.
Yeah.
So, my goal is really to kind of find the people that are looking for me, right? Or that share a similar vision, that get it, right? That get it already. And it's sort of like, all right, now how do we create this? How do we build this? And so that's really been my focus. And I find that with that lens, it's also, you're able to conserve your energy.
Yes, because
right?
This is exhausting.
And then also be efficient with your time.
Yeah, for sure. So how then does that look in terms of, when you talk alignment, how does that look in terms of the capital raising experience for you? Are you doing that on the continent? Are you doing that in the US? Is it a multi-dimensional kind of gathering of LPs and investors, limited partners? What does that look like?
All of the above. Yes, and.
So I love that you talked about alignment. What does that look like in terms of the investment thesis that you're focused on? I heard climate before, but I heard care. Tell me, am I in the right ballpark?
You are. Tell
me more.
Yep, 2 out of 4. Yep.
Okay.
So Achebe Capital, right? We're a C to Series A stage fund that invests across the U.S. and Africa, and our goal is to be a bridge across diaspora communities, starting with Africa and with Africa at the center. And so to that end, we're investing in two geos in parallel, right? So it's almost like basically launching two funds in parallel.
You're building 2 communities of entrepreneurs,
Exactly.
2 ecosystems. Yeah, fascinating.
And so we're doing it through 2 separate vehicles. And so that way, and that was based off of LP feedback, right? There are some LPs that have a mandate for US only. There are some that have a mandate for Africa only. And there are some that are interested in both and can invest in both. And so I figured let's launch 2 separate vehicles and let LPs basically a la carte, right? Choose, which vehicle they want to participate in. But we will be reporting out everything to all the LPs, because the goal is to also kind of help us data collect and educate each other, just learn together. Right. And so that's really important to us.
Really quickly, because I love breaking down acronyms. So you said LP, which means?
Limited partner.
And limited partners is a fancy word or legal term for the investors that come into and invest in a fund. Exactly. They all become partners in the fund. And their investment is then managed by you and hits the streets and makes its way to some amazing founders. Tell us the 4 C's again, please.
Sure. So it's care, climate action, commerce, and culture. Yeah, and there are sub-themes within them. And so right now, and these are always evolving, I like to say that we're thesis-driven to a certain extent, but we also have a living and breathing thesis, right? That will change as the world changes, right? And so that's why I chose those themes, because I think that those themes are broad enough to be all-encompassing, but also focused enough to be able to really kind of focus on for us, it's really just solving consequential problems and addressing amazing opportunities, right?
I love this. So you're still building. And thank you for coming in and talking to us now. Listeners, we are getting the inside exclusive scoop here. You won't be able to really get in touch with Chi until the new year. But I was like, I want you to come in and tell us about it.
Thank you.
We're going to all watch this space. A couple last things I want to understand. Who's the ideal company or entrepreneur? So if I'm listening and I'm trying to figure out if I should even reach out to you, what are some of the checklist items that you will be looking for that I should make sure that I have in place?
I would say one is an entrepreneur that's aligned with our thesis and our stage, right? So C to Series A. So the ideal entrepreneur will be one that's either raised a pre-seed or their company is generating revenue or has meaningful traction. And specifically, we're really interested in companies that have figured out product market fit to a certain extent, right? Because where we come in is we inject capital to help them scale that and grow that, as well as make the right intros and connect them with the right resources and strategic partners to help them really grow to that next level.
Okay, so they really need to be ready to leap.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
They're at that inflection point. And then also, the other part of our thesis is thematically what I mentioned: care, climate action, commerce, and culture. They're kind of building within one of those 4 themes. And some of the sub-themes I can highlight, maybe, founders within health, within care, either like some of the things that we're curious or interested in are founders that are building affordable, high-quality healthcare solutions, that are building within precision medicine, that are building within women's health, and also within the care economy. And then within commerce, the sub-themes within commerce are fintech, supply chain logistics, and infrastructure, both digital and physical infrastructure. And then the sub-themes within culture are media, music, fashion, food, beauty, sports, the creator economy. So companies that are really sort of like tapping into the cultural zeitgeist.
Fascinating. So you've got a lot of sub-industries that you're going to be looking at. I know a little bit about some of them and a lot about some of the others, but how are you going to get comfortable and how do you invest in all those? I'm so curious.
Yeah. In a nutshell, in community, right? So no individual can be an expert in all things, and I don't claim to be. I certainly am not. I'm curious, but I'm not an expert in all things, and it's okay.
And I don't have to Give yourself grace, for sure.
I don't have to be. We don't have to be, right? But in community, we can be knowledgeable and maybe even an expert in many things. And so that's how we plan to essentially, build an amazing network of domain experts across all industries, across these themes, across the diaspora, right? That can provide both domain expertise and culturally relevant expertise to our founders across all 4 themes.
Oh, I'm getting excited about this.
Thank you.
And I know it's still early days for you, and thank you for coming in and telling us all about it. A couple just quick questions. We'll call it a speed round. One is, how do people reach you? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Best way right now is to get in touch with me via social media. So I'm trying to build sort of more of a following because we're going to be announcing and making I really want to interact with our community through social media. So I'm Chi Achebe on all platforms. So Chi, CHI _ my last name, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, and we'll be setting up a YouTube pretty soon.
Oh, I love that. Okay. And we will make sure we put all those social handles and get those out to our listeners. Final speed round question for you. Who's the next guest we should have on this show? You know tons of VCs. You know people in the sector.
Yeah.
I know you're a member of Venture Access Alliance. Yes. Thank you for all that you are.
Our fearless leader.
I try. It's the EDC leadership that empowers us to work with them. But being a Venture Access Alliance member, you see so much across New York City. Mm-hmm. Anyone in New York City or from Africa that we should have on the show?
Oh, amazing. So many. Okay, so...
And if you don't name them all now, that's okay. We'll get the list from you later.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, so I would say in New York, I really love the work that Ben Sun and the Primary Ventures team is doing. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, we'll get Primary Ventures on.
Yeah.
For sure.
They're great.
Okay.
And there's just so many.
I know it's hard. You can't name them all.
Can't.
But tell us one in Africa, maybe.
Well, I will say this. I would recommend reaching out to. There's a community that I'm part of called Black Women in VC, and it's incredible. There's so many amazing Black female VCs.
They're fabulous.
There's Lakeisha at Emmeline Ventures in LA. I don't even want to name names because there's so many. I'm going to miss people.
Yeah. And so you know what?
I would say
no more. Yes.
So I would say connect with Veronica at Black Women in VC to learn more about the organization she's building, and then also like a lot of the VCs within that community. And then on the continent, there's so many. I would be remiss to not mention E at Future Africa.
Okay.
He's building a phenomenal platform, and I really love what they're doing. Dr. Ola Brown at HealthCap, she's doing amazing work, and she has a lot of great content. So she's like a former founder, started a healthcare startup, a doctor. She's like incredible.
Amazing.
And now she has a VC fund. Those are the two that really that stand out. There's so many. I'm sorry if I missed folks.
We'll get a fuller list from you. And I love that you mentioned Black Women in VC because I've been thinking about doing something with them for 2025. So stay tuned, listeners.
Amazing.
But yeah, they've been in my heart and in my head. So we're going to figure that out for 2025.
Awesome.
Chi, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have this new generation of venture capitalists who are going to be writing checks to really amazing entrepreneurs. Just warms my heart. I'm so excited. And whatever I and my team can do to make you a success is just more of the all boats rising. And listeners, stay tuned because she's got some great stuff coming up. So follow her on her social so you know when those things are happening.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you do and how you do it so joyfully and with so much grace. It's appreciated.
Thank you for noticing and saying so. All righty, everyone. Stay fabulous.
This episode of VCs Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy.
Okay, so how adorable is Chi?
She's so impressive. Beautiful, smart. She dropped wisdom.
Knowledge.
I took notes. The gap in the market in the gap.
That was so powerful. So powerful. Well, we're going to put that on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to put that on the website.
Because that was very, very interesting, the concept.
And I mean, we all should think in that way, right? That just because there's a gap in the market doesn't mean there's a market for that gap. That there will be customers and clients.
You could be ahead of it.
True.
Right?
True. Yeah, but it's a really beautiful way to think about what you're building and why you're building it. I love that. I also loved the big and boldness of what she's building in terms of a fund. I mean, it's cross-continent, right?
Yeah.
It truly is this African diaspora bridge.
Yeah.
And being able to invest in companies on both continents.
And, when you think about it, like just to be clear in case someone is not clear, it's a continent, not one country, right? Yeah. And that's a lot of landscape. That's incredible.
Yeah, listen, that's a lot of territory to cover. That's a lot of markets to understand. A lot of buying patterns, consumers to reach, entrepreneurs to get comfortable with and excited and invested in.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It's a big, bold vision she has for her company.
Yeah, I love it.
And we need people to do that, right? So that was part of why I wanted her on the show as she's building it, as opposed to it's up, it's running. Like I wanted people behind the scenes to hear about this vision and what she's building. Yeah. It's really
and she doesn't feel limited. She's unlimited. Sorry, we can cut that out. But she doesn't feel like she's limiting herself.
Yeah. And we need to see more of that in the world, right? Like we need to see people that look like us that have big, bold ideas and don't shrink from them,
Yeah.
right? I believe in 2025, one of the things that I'm going to work on is imposter syndrome. That if I see it creeping up in myself, I'm going to name it, I'm going to call it out for what it is, and I'm going to work to suppress it.
Well, it goes to what we started talking about, right? Story with Romeo. It's the story we tell ourselves that we don't belong in the space. And we can change that.
We can change that. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a beautiful episode because we started with storytelling and that gets us thinking big and bold. And then we have someone who's doing that and her story crosses 2 continents.
And she's investing in media. She's just great. She's great.
Yeah. I mean, I loved having both of these people in the studio today. Very different.
Yeah.
But more to come from both of them.
Yeah.
Like they're going to have amazing careers. We all need to stay connected to them.
Yeah.
So again, Romeo Ortiz and Achebe.
Great conversation.
More to come, people. Stay fabulous. See you in the next episode of VCs Off the Record.
Thanks for hanging with us. This podcast was produced by Wocstar Media in New York City at the Podstream Studios. Be sure to follow VCs Off the Record on Apple and Spotify. We're also on Sheconomy, the State of Women podcast platform. Please consider giving us a good review or share it with someone. Let us know what you want us to talk about on our socials and our YouTube channel. You can find us at wocstar.com for all the information.